Okay, let's go ahead and take you through some of the papers here this morning. Blueprint newspaper, LG Autonomy. Despite Supreme Court judgment, FAC will be paid into joint account for 90 days, ascribed to Makinde. You may be wondering, so what does he mean by that? Well, look at some of the writers here. Insists we must obey our own law. Well, that suggests something. That somebody's not obeying something or what? Okay, look at the next one. Fayose says you can't take away the baby from the mother. Algon calls for review of revenue sharing formula. And then you have a look at the Guardian newspaper today. Nigerians at risk of food crisis as inflation hits new record. That's what you see right there. Okay, so just after that, have a look at Vanguard newspaper. Controversy as manufacturers reject MBS inflation figure. Oh, look at the writers now. Inflation is 34.19% in June, ascribed to MBS. No, it's over 90%, ascribed to Nasima. Beats all analysis forecasts. Highest in Edo, Kogi, Cross River. Lowest in Nasarawa, Bauchi, Adamawa. Analysts blame policy failures, recommend solutions. Band A woes, talking about the power sector now. Varsities groan over high tariffs. Students lament blackouts. So much for the power minister to ponder about in terms of what's going on in that sector. Nigerian News Direct stakeholders jittery as inflation rate hits 34.19%, 28-year high. New Telegraph, huge debts, others crippling private schools' operations, ascribed to an investigation by them. A Daily Independent, FG tackles hunger, gives 20 trucks of rice to each state, and FCT says it has identified a solution to food shortage, may reveal final resolution on minimum wage Thursday. Or Daily Trust is focusing on security this morning. Bandits kill 4, abduct 150 in Zamfara. You may wonder what is going on. 2 babies among abductees. Some women escaped with broken limbs. Really need to rally the troops right there to see how they can address all of that. Business Day, Nigeria confronts worst health crisis in decades. The paper reports that much this morning.
Yeah, so there you go. That story in the front page of Daily Trust seemed, of course, that figure to 150. We're actually trying to get more details in terms of how do these things happen. Look, we know that they've gone back and forth between security chiefs and the Zamfara state government in terms of what needs to be done, how they need to pull together to ensure that you don't keep getting those kinds of narrative. But it's equally interesting that today also, some defense chiefs, the chief of defense staff, is going to be meeting the intelligence, the departments, agencies. Perhaps this kind of issue may come up much later today. But also, when the CDS did appear before some members in the National Assembly, he did say that most of the time, some of these chaps who are caught illegal mining usually associate or ascribe the activities to certain big men up there who are doing all of these things, which, and who knows, because equally this week was that report when it was said that the federal government, I think they're trying to finalize the bill at the National Assembly to ensure that land that has gold reserves, the government takes control of that. So we don't know what the implication of that will be if, for instance, government takes control of those areas in Zamfara where there's heavy gold resources. But I'm just wondering, seeing that story, what they're trying to do, is it going to be reserved to just the gold reserves or mineral resources, basically? Because if they do that for gold reserves, and this chap's saying, okay, so much for gold, let's switch to other minerals. and then they recreate the same template that they've done for gold to other minerals, what happens? So who knows, one imagines that they might extend it to all the other areas. And how long are we going to continue this for if people keep agitating, saying, look, here we are having governors grappling with saying, look, we need more funds, devolve more power from the center, don't make the center stronger, make it weaker. But if you go by way of allowing these resources get into the hands of the federal government, is that the best way out?
I think that's what we need to really, ponder on as a people, and that's what people have said. It's not working. The people in the Niger Delta have been looking at what is happening in other parts of the country, especially where there are other resources that have not grabbed as much attention as oil, such as gold, such as tantalite, and a number of other mineral resources, which, it would seem that individuals are just mining and carting away without
a lot of them in this country.
Yes,
so many.
Especially without government, really interfering in those things. So they keep asking, why is it that you pay so much attention to the Niger Delta and you won't even let us take control? Meanwhile, these other people, they think that they've been dealt an unfair hand. So I think that there really needs to be a very proper conversation around what it is we really want, because we understand that the Constitution says that, resources on top of the ground, yes, belongs to the state government or the people around there, and then resources underneath the ground is what exactly is controversial, belongs to the federal government.
The one that gets to the top, where does it come from? It's not from inside the ground.
I don't know, but these are the things lawyers tell us. So it'll be very interesting to to take a closer look at it and say, how can we really work this for the benefit of all? It's really a shame that we have so many resources and yet our people are wallowing in poverty. It is truly a shame. And I think one of the areas where we're beginning to really see just how big a shame, because while we're also talking about mineral resources, there's also, the farmlands, the fact that we have land, arable land ready to be farmed. You understand, over 80% of the land in Nigeria is arable. It's something that you just throw a seed somewhere and it grows. And yet, look at inflation figures, especially for food. Look at what we're being told. Look at what we're being shown. Now we see figures of the MBS being disputed. It's an interesting scenario, Jimberlin, because even if the MBS is correct in its estimation of what it has found, it does feel for the people that the inflation rate is far much worse than has been projected by the MBS. I think what people must note, and what we have been told, really, because this is not only in Nigeria that controversy arises as to whether the National Bureau of Statistics of whatever country is painting the correct picture of inflation in that particular country, especially when people are looking at everyday items that they use. But we understand that, what goes into collating the composite basket for inflation is far much more than food. Much as food is very important, and I know that food also has its own headline, and we see that food actually, takes the cake when it comes to inflation figures. So it will be interesting to see just how many more things go into that composite basket to give us something as mild as 34.19 when food inflation itself is hitting as much as 40.87. You can imagine what that means, that, prices have gone up at least 40% or 41% since you last purchased them when the MBS, took note of the figures. That's on people's income, because food you must eat, mustn't you? So it is really a situation, and I think that we really all need. We've been seeing the First Lady watering her backyard garden, trying to encourage people to also do that as well. Please, if you haven't started and you're able to, and they say now you don't even need a patch of land to start. You can do something in pots, in vegetable pots, in flower pots. You'll be surprised just what magic you're able to create. And people ask the question, what do we eat in the meantime? Well, whatever it is that we have been eating must be the answer.
Yeah, part of the concern because now that you're saying those agencies, is it NASIMA, manufacturers saying, no, these figures don't quite look like it. Probably understandable, because for them, they interface with people. They're the ones who are manufacturing. They're the ones who are in there who feel the brunt directly from the vagaries of economic regulation in states and perhaps policies of federal government. And the thing about that is this, yesterday we saw the announcement that the government is distributing rice to state governors.
Yes,
and then they should get to the people. But the question about all of that is, as much as, yes, they could try all they can, but what data are they using to get across to the people? Because if you don't have that, if you can't reach real people who actually need these things, whatever you're doing is going to be going down a manhole. Because, look, we keep saying that if they keep playing politics with data, I mean, when you tell people, let's get proper data to know who is where in this country, they tell you, oh, no, you can't do some of this. You know why? Because they play politics with data. You know,
Jimmy, interestingly, I was reading something yesterday, and it spoke right to that. And at the heart of it was, the conversation around democracy. How democratic countries democratic countries are having to look again at this concept of democracy and say, why do we seem to make progress in certain areas and no progress in other areas? They found out that the areas where they make the most progress are the areas where they are able to isolate, from politics. For instance, decisions taken at the Central Bank of Nigeria, are not things that should be subject to whether, APC agrees or PDP doesn't agree, or whether, it's favoring the Southeast or it's not favoring the Southwest. It should be about what works for the generality of Nigerians. Yeah. That's what, should be at the focus. So people are asking, why is it that some of those things work there and cannot work? The moment you take those kinds of decisions, for instance, to say the National Assembly, then you're subjecting it to politics. So there are some things that we should remove, from political decisions. They should be immune. They should be isolated from political decisions. And that's the only way, we can actually make progress. Data should be one of those things. It should be something that, whenever it is we're taking it for the good of all. It's really a crying shame that we've not been able to do a census. We don't know how many we are. We're still guessing, how many people are in Nigeria. We're projecting based on some 2006 census, which we conducted, which was heavily disputed. So I sometimes wonder, when will we, sit and tell ourselves the truth and say, look, unless we do this in this area, we will continue to guess. I mean, yes, the federal government meant well sending 20 trucks to each state. So no state can say, I got more, I got less. But how does that address the number of poor people in a particular state? Because obviously some states will have a larger population of poor people or very vulnerable people than some other states. So how is sending 20 trucks to each one, say doing it on, that's basis of equality, as they'll say, but that is certainly not the basis of equity, because the idea should be that everybody or each person should not get less than a particular amount. If that is the case, sending a generic 20 trucks to each state that won't cut it.
There are just several areas, because when they say it shouldn't just be focused on sharing formula. What do you bring to the table? So you get your whatever you get based on what you bring to the table. That would have been a stark relative, but politicians speak against it. So those who also think, look, why don't we classify our regions based on economic zones? Perhaps if you do that, these zones economically can be stronger. Everybody plays on their strength, and then those areas are fledgling. But politicians again will tell you, no, we may not do it.
There's some areas where we just need, I think also the quality of politicians. I remember having a conversation with the Algon chairman, and he was telling me, or the Algon DJ, beg your pardon, and I was saying, the quality of people we have at the local government level, and he said, look, quality is a problem everywhere. Quality is a problem everywhere. And I couldn't agree more. I think that we really need to examine if, those who really know what should be done would say, no, politics is too dirty for me, then it's no surprise that we're where we are.
If people think that all of these figures don't matter, just go out to the streets. Deliberately pay attention to the sea of idle hands around your locality. That will give you an idea of what we may be playing with, because the population is growing, but the resources are shrinking.
They are.
It is shrinking. And if that keeps happening, don't think because you don't see the immediate effect or it hasn't hit home and you think, no, it's not going to. Look, the word really is enough for the wise. If we don't change how we do things, those things will change us. Let's choose what we want to do. We're back in a moment. Stay on with us.